You can ask the car to park itself, of course, but given the tight spaces that are aplenty in India, you might have to park the car yourself. But when you do that, you don't have to creak your neck to ensure a safe parking space. There are enough cameras all around the car, enough proximity sensors all around the car to tell you exactly where you're parking, how close you are to the surroundings, to the obstructions like you have here right now. Well, then, you don't have to creak your neck to do anything. In fact, it gives you a virtual view of the entire surroundings around you. What's more, because you're most probably parking in tight spots, it will also tell you how much space you need to open your doors so that you don't bang your door into a car or a wall next to you. On a similar thought, even the boot lid has a split design. And as you would expect, both the panes are electronically operated. Of course, you don't even have to move a muscle if you want to drop the seats and increase the boot space, because even that is electronically controlled. Thankfully, the wheel doesn't pop out on its own, but if you spec this car with run flat tires, probably you will never need that spare wheel at all. And while it took 2 switches and 2 steps to open the tailgate, it takes only 1 switch and 1 step to close it both together. These are few of the many convenience features and creature comforts that the new X5 boasts of. But let us now turn our attention to the design and let us get the controversial bit out of the way, the new kidney grille. If you haven't noticed already, this grille has grown huge. It has these fins which will only open between the grills to aid cooling. The vertical slats also look more imposing and natural than the studded grille that we saw on the Z4. The grille isn't as polarizing as we thought and fits well into the X5's design and form, so don't let the images cloud your opinion. Sleek headlamps flank the grille and the Corona hooks look familiar, but the blue egg-shaped elements are new and highlight the laser lights which come to light softly and are available on the X-Line and the M Sport trims. What you see here is the X-Line, which essentially adds more bling with the chrome and satin finishes in areas like the window lines, the bumpers, and of course, the grille. The side profile of the X5 looks more sophisticated now, with a stepped character line, but the slab rear may not be to everybody's liking. And then there's the tail. The tail light. Gone is the hammer shape, and in comes this new slender three-dimensional design. It's not typical BMW. In fact, it's very Jeep Cherokee in my view. But I like the complexity of it. I like the way the flow is. I like the way those contours are. The new X5 isn't as aggressive as some of the X cars in BMW's lineup, but that matured stance sets the tone for the stately new flagship for BMW SUVs, the X7. And despite the X7's presence in the portfolio, the X5 has grown larger in all dimensions, which also means that there is more space inside the cabin now, enough to have a 7-seater configuration. But India only gets the 5-seater variant. The X-Line trim adds bling on the inside as well. Not just the regular shiny bits like chrome and satin inserts, but also this crystal work. One that has a prism effect and can beam rainbows on the dashboard if the lighting is right. You see the iDrive selector, the start button, the gear selector, they all have this crystalline effect that BMW likes to call crafted clarity. I'm increasingly getting a feeling that this car is designed for the Americans and the rappers. Oh wait, maybe that could be the X7. The X5 has new switchgear, but the driving mode selectors are still on the tunnel console, practically needing you to take your eyes off the road to make selections. The instrumentation doesn't need you to do that though. Perched high up on the dashboard, tilted towards the driver with its ultra-crisp display that's easy to read even in bright daylight. Oh, and by the way, changing the driving mode also changes the color theme for the entire interface now and not just the instrumentation. The other display I like, the other crispness I like is that of the instrumentation. It's all digital now. What I don't like is the reverse tachometer and the amount of information that it gives you. It's just too much. There is a lot happening here. Good for some, but for some it could lead to a sensory overload. Now you could have filtered it down to the basics by using the head-up display, but there is none. The X5 now runs the 7th generation of the iDrive, and the gesture controls, though not entirely foolproof yet, are seemingly more intuitive than in the past. Using these sensors and a few more, the X5 can magically adapt the driver's seat to the driver. I still had to move my own muscle and then make sure that I get my right driving preference the way I want it, fine tune it. But what I really like is I believe that the controls for the seat are feather touch sensitive, because the moment you take your fingers close to the controls, the display automatically changes to give you various options for the seats. Check that out. Even without touching the actual controls. I like it. The seats are very accommodating and very comfortable indeed, but for this class of the car, I would have liked seat ventilation and a massaging function too. When you get into the rear, you will be amazed at the kind of space that the X5 offers. The seat, it doesn't recline, it doesn't have a reclining function, which is a bit of a downer considering even the 6GT gets it. Otherwise, in terms of equipment, you get dual zone climate control just the way you get it at the front. You also have AC vents in the B pillars, you get a center armrest, you have cup holders, you have storage spaces here. You also have a sturdy seat back pocket. Both the seat backs also get USB-C ports, and you also have this little mechanism to mount various accessories like a coat hanger or maybe a tablet dock. Many compatible accessories that BMW has on offer go right in there. So in terms of equipment, in terms of comfort, in terms of space, this is a good place to be in. There's wireless charging at the front, and the phone is nicely tucked away so that the notifications don't distract you. The India Spec X5 misses out on some new age radar and camera guided assistance systems and has a basic cruise control system on offer instead. Barring these, it comes with a plethora of other safety features which are all standard irrespective of the variant you choose. There's a stunning ambient light package too, from setting the mood to lighting up the panoramic roof to changing the door lighting to red to warn of an open door or welcoming the occupants with a carpet of light. It scores high in my books. So the 4th generation X5 debuts in India with a diesel, while a petrol will join the lineup later this year. What we are driving right now is the xDrive 30D X-Line trim, which is the top of the line variant available right now. Its motivation comes from a 6-cylinder, 3-litre turbocharged diesel engine. Now elsewhere around the globe, there's also an xDrive 50D variant, which gets a few M goodies and 4 turbochargers. Of course, that would be a very powerful, very fun to drive car that would be great to drive, great to own. But the xDrive 30D is quite impressive too. It has 265 PS of power with a creamy 620 Newton meters of torque spread, which helps the X5 go from 0 to 100 km an hour in 6.5 seconds. The engine feels a little slow to get off the mark at city speeds or in bumper-to-bumper traffic, and there are noticeable pedal vibrations at lower revs. But the moment the turbo spools up, the vibrations and the feeling of restraint disappears. The engine is mated to the familiar 8-speed ZF transmission. And I don't know how BMW manages to do this, but with every new model that comes out, this transmission just feels better and better, more telepathic, more predictable, and I quite like it. The engine also sounds quite pleasing for a diesel, but that is a synthesized sound, of course. It is quite fuel efficient for this size and manages to impress with its cruising performance on the highway, but there is a fly in the ointment. Well, in terms of ride quality, the ride quality is exceptionally good, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like a typical BMW. Now, that's a good thing and a bad thing. Good thing because it's not as stiff as some of the older X5 generations. Not a good thing because it's a little too squishy for my liking. Even in the sport mode, it doesn't firm up enough for me to enjoy a flat ride through corners. Thanks to the air springs, the X5 can raise its height and go over tall bumps, or drop it low for easier ingress, egress and cargo loading. There is no off-road mode though for the India Spec car. The ride quality is extremely comfortable too, and doesn't have the firm edge that one associates with German cars. But with a full house, the squishy nature of the X5 is starkly highlighted. The brakes also need a firmer push when running with a packed cabin, and the regenerative function means that the feedback isn't as sharp as you would like. They are progressive nevertheless, but certainly need getting used to. The sport mode offers some respite, but this is not the ultimate driving machine, which brings me back to what we started with. The new X5 has become a lot softer than its predecessors, and that is a clear reflection of what the consumers want in this segment, and that far outweighs the expectations of BMW purists. I would have liked to see a far greater number of assistance systems though. Despite their absence, the X5 at the moment is probably still one of the best luxury SUVs in this space, with the kit that it brings along and the space that it offers. When I reviewed the X4, I concluded saying that it is one of the best all-rounders that BMW currently has in its portfolio. That car, it has a sprightly engine, it's got lovely driving dynamics. I like the way it looks, though it's a polarizing design. It looks quite sporty. It's an ideal brat car that you expect from BMW. Now the X5 also leaves me with similar thoughts, but with a bit of a difference. This is the car for the brat who is maturing. This is a little more mature than the X3 or the X4. This is for the person who has a family now, who wants to ferry a family, who probably works in an environment where he or she needs to be driven around. And that is where the X5 is like a step up over the X3 or the X4. It has very good driving dynamics. Like I said, they're a little squishy for my liking, but they're still more involving than what the competition has to offer. It also has a luxurious back seat. It's got some really good goodies at the back to give you a comfortable, luxurious ride if you are driven around. So in that sense, this is a little more mature, like I said, than the X3 or the X4. And it's still an all-rounder because it packs everything all together just the way a BMW should. And that is why I think it should deserve your attention if you're shopping in this space. Speaking of which, this space right now is actually quite exciting to shop in because you have a new GLE coming out, you have a new GLS coming out, Audi has a Q8 coming out, they are even updating the Q7 with equipment. So if you are shopping in this particular space, if you are looking for a full-size luxury SUV in a 5-seat or a 7-seat format, then there are plenty of new options that are opening up in this space right now. So like I said, it is an exciting time and the X5 certainly deserves your attention.